Welcome to the greatest podcast in sports betting entertainment. My name is Tanner Kern, certified G, bona fide stud, and you can't teach that. In this right here, this is G Money Grant Mitchell. We are here breaking down everything you need to know about Week 10 in the NFL, and you can't teach that. Bada boom, man of the people in the room. G Money Grant Mitchell, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I almost went online and impulse bought some tickets to go watch some live sports this weekend, but ultimately held off on it. Thought I would save my money, but I'm doing well, Tanner. You know, it's still, even though we're late in the year, it's nice weather outside down here. Don't know how it is up where you are, but it's good. I'm feeling good. You know, the weekend's almost here. Can't complain.
I'm feeling good too, Grant. I'm feeling very, very good this morning because we got a lot of good football to talk about, and we got a great Thursday night football matchup. This is probably the best Thursday night game we've seen in weeks, I would say, right?
Yeah, and it's kind of nonsense. You know, I want to see the Colts and the Jaguars. I want to see the Titans and the Patriots. We're not supposed to get good football on Thursday.
Like a good football game on a Thursday night is awesome because we never get like Thursdays always, or it seems like it. And I know they do the schedule before the season, but it seems like it's just the bleh games, you know, like nothing special about them. But this is a good one. Bengals, Ravens here. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But before we do that, Grant, tell them why they need to go like smash the WSN button, smash the subscribe button, and get online.
Well, Tanner and I are here in front of the camera a few times a week, so if that's not reason enough, I don't know what is. But also, you know, if you go to WSN.com, you're going to find yourself some promo codes for sports betting. You're going to find previews of games. You're going to find expert picks from myself, Tanner, and some other guys out there on the team, guys and girls. So really, it's a one-stop shop at WSN.com. And of course, Tanner and I are right here putting out the podcast. So everyone wins. Hit the subscribe button, become a part of the community, stay locked in.
There you go. We're locked in this morning. We're locked in on Bengals versus Ravens. First off, Grant, I don't even want to talk about the game. I just want to get a pick right off the bat. Are you taking plus 6.5 or minus 6.5?
Plus 6.5. No question.
Yeah, no question. I don't know why the line is that big. Usually when it looks weird, you bet the other side. But I think this is a terrible matchup for Baltimore in the sense of they can't stop the pass and Joe Burrow can sling it all over the field.
Yeah, absolutely. And those Baltimore not being able to stop the pass kind of goes hand in hand with it having the best run defense in the league, right? Because you know, if a team forces you out of the run, then you're gonna have to throw the ball. So their passing numbers are probably a little inflated. They're probably not the worst in the league, but the point is they're not good. And Joe Burrow had 5 passing touchdowns in his last game, 5 passing touchdowns the last time he faced the Ravens. Last time he faced the Ravens, it was at home, yes, but it was 41-38 and it went to overtime. So again, this 6.5 point line, I don't get it. You know, if you're going to tell me since he's not going to run the ball against Baltimore, newsflash, since he can't run the ball on anybody, they haven't been able to run it all year. It's just been Joe Burrow. Yes, that is a lot of pressure to put on one man, but he has delivered for the most part. I know that his team's record is bad, but Joe Burrow individually is actually having a great season. The only thing that I think could throw this off is if T. Higgins probably not going to play. So it's really just Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and everybody else hoping. But no, I think 6.5 is still way too big of a line.
Yeah, I mean, the Bengals can't run the ball with Chase Brown no matter what. So I don't think that's their plan of attack in this game. I think they're going to throw the ball early and often. And we saw it last time out. The Bengals really should have beat the Ravens. Like, that just comes down to not being a good football team late in games. But the Bengals had every opportunity. They probably had a 99% chance of winning that football game when it comes to probability, and they just couldn't get it done there. Burrow nearly threw for 400 yards last time out against the Ravens. Jamar Chase nearly had 200 yards receiving. Looking at some props in this game, Grant, we have Joe Burrow at 268.5. You going over on that?
I'm staying off of it, but I mean, if they're going to cover and even win, then he's probably got to go over.
Yeah, I agree. And then Jamar Chase is right around, I believe, 86, 87 and a half. Yes, 80 and a half now. Okay.
I would go anytime touchdown. You know, I think that's pretty safe. They don't have a bunch of weapons. They don't want to run the ball. So
minus 125 for Jamar Chase anytime touchdown. You know, it's crazy though. Last week, Burrow throws 5 touchdowns and Jamar Chase doesn't have a single one.
Yeah, I mean, that was one thing, but it was also the Raiders, too. We know that when you get into matchups with tougher opponents, you look for your favorite guys more often. Also, one thing, just kind of circling back to the matchup overall, don't forget, if we take out the first couple weeks of the season, because the Ravens didn't really know what to do with Derrick Henry, they're doing a lot of zone stuff, playing out of shotgun, not playing to his strengths. So discount the first 2 weeks of the season. Which team did the best job defending Derrick Henry? The Bengals. He had 14 carries for 41 yards at the end of 4 quarters. Now, we get to overtime. He has that 51-yard run, and it basically wins his team the game. But the point being, through 4 quarters, nobody did a better job defending him than the Bengals did.
Well, and that's the case too. Like that's the way you're in games against Baltimore. Like even the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I go back to this game. Like Derrick Henry did not have that great of a football game until later in it. He had 2 massive carries down the stretch, which racked him up at well over 100 yards. But like they were doing a really good job against Derrick Henry. Now Lamar was picking them apart too, and that's pick your poison with them. But I think the Bengals have a good chance to cover in this game. I would potentially sprinkle them to win outright tonight. We know teams tend to split their division games. This is one that the Bengals know they should have confidence coming into because they nearly beat the Ravens last time out. Would you play that, or no? You staying off the money line?
I wouldn't put a lot on it. I'm with you, though. I think they're a live dog. I don't think this is a foregone conclusion. And I understand that my faith and your faith in the Bengals might not be fair as far as how we evaluate other teams. Because if this team wasn't named the Bengals, like if we were looking at this team and they had these players, these coaches and everything, but they were the Raiders, we would say, well, who have they beat so far? They've beat the Panthers, the Giants, the Browns, and actually the Raiders. So 4 of the worst teams in the league. Like those are the least impressive wins you can have on your schedule. But that being said, Joe Burrow is playing right at an MVP level, not in the conversation because his team has a losing record, but we know that what he can do. We know what Jamar Chase can do. And we know that the Bengals just over the last 3-4 years, whenever they face the best teams in the league, they usually handled themselves pretty well. Yes, they only scored 10 points against the Patriots, but they only lost to the Chiefs by 1 and the Ravens in overtime. So anytime there's a big matchup, they always get up for it.
Yeah, and you look at their schedule right now too, and the Patriots lost the beginning of the season. I don't know how that happened, but they didn't get the job done there. You get the Chiefs, they lost to them by a point. The Commanders, that came down to the wire there. Joe Burrow was fantastic in that game. You almost beat the Ravens, and then you got blown out by the Eagles. So those are the 4 losses for them right now, or 5. That's the 5 losses for them. So when you look at the game against the Eagles, that one came down to coaching. I think that was a stupid decision. But at the same time, too, you've been competitive in pretty much every game. So there's no reason to think you're not going to be competitive in this one.
Yeah, I'm with you. Again, if you ask me who's winning, I would say the Ravens, but I think the Bengals do have a real chance here.
Yeah.
Also Baltimore, got to keep in mind, this is a team that they get you up, and then they let you down. Whether it's they just don't show up or they blow a 4th quarter lead, whatever it is. They won by like 30 plus points against the Broncos, who had a great defense last week. So are they a little high on themselves right now? Is this maybe a moment of humbling for them?
And it comes down to desperation. Like, Joe Burrow said it going into last week. They have to win 7 of their final 10 games. It's doable. Don't get me wrong, but like you got to steal one of these games that you're a significant dog in to be competitive and make a playoff push.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's how it goes. You got to win games that you're not supposed to sometimes. And this is one of those moments.
Bengals to make the playoffs right now.
Can I guess?
Yeah.
To make the playoffs, I'm going to say plus 210.
Minus 114.
What, to make the playoffs?
That's fair, though. When you look at the playoff standings right now,
I mean, they're 4-5 and they're 6.5 point dogs. So that means the odds makers think they're going to go to 4-6, yet they're favorites to make the playoffs. That kind of blows my mind.
So when you look at the Bengals right now on the bubble, so the 5, 6, 7 right now, Ravens 6-3. So they're going to get in, and the Commanders are going to get in. Chargers 5-3, Broncos 5.
Commanders in the NFC.
My bad. Ravens are 6-3. So the leader in the NFC North right now is Steelers. So Steelers or Ravens are getting in. So it's really Chargers and Broncos. So you have the 5-3 Chargers against the 5-4 Kansas City Chiefs. On the bubble right now, you have the Colts, Bengals, and Jets.
I mean, I like the Bengals the most out of those teams, don't get me wrong. But if we are to assume the Bengals lose this week, they drop to 4-6. Who do the Broncos have? The Chiefs, so they're going to lose. They'll be 5-5. The Colts have the Bills. They'll probably lose that. So I guess all the teams kind of in that 5, 6, 7, 8 range are going to lose. So I don't know.
You got to expect the Broncos are going to fade, though. Like, I don't expect the Broncos to be a competitive
Yeah.
playoff team down the stretch. So that they've dropped off, and then you get the Chargers in a head-to-head. You can beat the Chargers in a head-to-head game. You look okay, and I do think that one would favor the Bengals there. So you lose to the Ravens tonight, so you're 4-6. Let's say you beat the Chargers. I think you're going to split with the Steelers. So let's just 5-6. Let's go 6-7, right?
Yep.
6-7. Now we go Cowboys win 7-7. Titans win 8-7. Browns win 9-7. And you get the Broncos in a head-to-head. You could be 10-7 at the end of the season.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, the fact that they're projected to go to 4-6, yet they're still favorites to make the playoffs shows the odds makers still believe in them.
And that's a blessing with their schedule and the fact that you get the Broncos and you get the Chargers to knock one of those teams off. So it's very doable. And the Bengals, truthfully, are one of the top 7 teams in the AFC. There's no doubt about it. They had a bad start to the season. But this is one that they can win. I don't think they're going to win it tonight. But even if they don't, they're still in a decent position to make the playoffs. I don't think those odds change that much more if they win tonight, because bookmakers are expecting them to lose the game. Or if they lose tonight, I don't think the odds change that much more because bookmakers are expecting that. But if they do win tonight, those odds go to probably -150, -160 at least.
You know what else is going to be very interesting too? If the Bengals win this game, Joe Burrow's got to be vaulting up in that MVP conversation, because right now he's 5th in passing yards, tied for 2nd in touchdowns, 2nd in QBR, only has 4 interceptions. If he goes out and has 4 touchdowns, and we'll throw an interception in there, but he's going to be top 3, top 4 passing yards, leading the league maybe in passing touchdowns, 1st, 2nd in QBR, and his team's record, he's only going to be 1 game behind the Ravens. He and the Bengals. Like, it's going to be 6-4 versus 5-5. So right now, I think most people would say Lamar is the MVP, and he could still be the MVP after this week. But how could you look at him and Joe Burrow, look at the Ravens and the Bengals, and say that they're that different?
No, you can't. Yeah. So I think the Bengals have a very good chance of making the playoffs. I wish it was plus money, but it's still not a bad deal considering if they do win tonight, you're not going to get -114.
No, you're definitely not. If they win tonight, then they're going to -160, -170.
At least, because then you're going to beat the Chargers on Sunday Night Football. You're going to split with the Steelers, but you're going to beat the Cowboys, Titans, Browns, and Broncos. Like, you got to beat this. Realistically, for them to make the playoffs, you need to beat the Broncos, Chargers, and the Steelers once. The rest of the game should take care of themselves.
I'm with you. I think the Bengals are clearly one of the 7 best teams in the AFC. They're probably one of the 4 or 5 best.
Yeah. So, all right. What do we got next, Grant? We're going into Commanders. Big game for the Commies, Grant. How you feeling?
Yeah, so I think a lot of people in Washington here are very optimistic about this game. I'll tell you right now, as of before about 2 p.m. Eastern time on Tuesday, I was picking the Steelers to win this game. I know it's kind of trendy to bag on the Steelers, which I understand. Russell Wilson has looked better than expected, but he's still Russell Wilson. The offense is outdated, and the defense hasn't lived up to its usual standard. I get all that, but Mike Tomlin in his career, 13-4 off of a bye week. He's also covers the spread 65% of the time he's an underdog. It's only a 2.5-point spread, so if they're going to cover, you would assume they're probably going to win outright as well. So all that going for him. They've got the rest advantage. Really, the only thing the Commies had was that they're at home. What I'm wondering the most, how much does the Marshon Lattimore trade change things? Because yes, Washington had all the momentum in the world, all the confidence in the world, but when you get that sign from the front office and your coach say, hey, we believe in you, here's a 4-time Pro Bowler that you can throw out wide. I don't know how much of a difference it makes in this particular matchup. It's going to help, obviously, but I think it's more just about the non-tangible aspect of saying, hey, this is for real. We're 7-2, and we are genuinely going for it right now.
Yeah, I don't think it makes a difference in this game. I think the Steelers plus a field goal is a really good deal here. 3-1 on the road this season, 6-2 overall. As you were saying, how good Mike Tomlin is coming off the bye. I think the Commanders are a viable betting option, but overall, when you look at Washington versus Pittsburgh in this game, I think we're getting a little more little too much favoritism towards Washington here. I think this one should be closer to a 1-point spread and a pick 'em game because the Pittsburgh Steelers have a great defense. They have a better defense than the Commanders. Offensively, you can make the argument that Jaden Daniels has been much better than the Steelers, but Russell Wilson's looked really good since coming back. So I would be on Pittsburgh here. I don't really care about the Lattimore trade for this game, but moving forward, Washington's going for it, and they have a chance to win the division. I mean, the Eagles look great, but Washington is very much alive there.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I'm still settling on the Steelers, I think, in this one. I would much rather take the +3 that the line's at now than the outright, because I think Washington still got a great chance to win this game. One of the biggest concerns you would have is it's TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith bearing down on a rookie quarterback, right? Well, when the Commanders played the Browns and they were going against Myles Garrett, he didn't register a stat. He didn't have a fumble, a sack, a tackle. He didn't do anything. So they've shown that they can play against these great defensive players and defensive weapons. And Jaden Daniels, this is a fun fact. So I think the Commies have only played 2 games against teams above 500. It's the Ravens and I'm blanking on who the other one is. But in those games, Jaden Daniels' QBR increases 10 points. He's a big game player. That's what you've seen from him. And the Bengals aren't above 500, but we remember what he did in that game as well. So he can live up to the moment, but you still got to be concerned. That is still TJ Watt. That's a defensive player of the year waiting to get a strip sack and completely change the game.
Yeah, so looking at their schedule, this is by far the best defense they've faced, by far. So,
Baltimore with the run defense, but their pass defense is bad. Yeah,
their pass defense is really bad. The Steelers don't have that weakness like that. Ravens have one of the worst passing defenses in the NFL. So, this is by far going to be Jaden Daniels' toughest matchup, throwing the ball and finding ways to run the ball. And I look at the Browns game. Yeah, you have obviously Myles Garrett on the other side, but they were reeling at that time. That was a surprising win for the Commanders, in my opinion, and it was before we really knew what they were all about. But this will be the best test that Jaden Daniels has gotten, and the fact that you're getting the other side for a 3-point dog, it makes sense to take that side of the line for sure, even on the road.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Again, I think Washington can still win, but from a betting perspective, I think that's the best bet. The Lattimore trade, I know you said it makes a difference in the long run. Interested to hear your thoughts on it. My thoughts are it helps you for the present, obviously, but also the future. He's 28, so let's say he's got 3 more really good years left in him, hopefully. Look around your division. You've got CeeDee Lamb, you've got A.J. Brown, Malik Neighbors, Devontae Smith. You needed somebody to, Benjamin St-Juste and Mike Sainristil, who's only been playing defense for 2.5 years, is 5'8". Though they weren't going to cut it outside the numbers. So bringing this guy in, it's almost necessitated by what's going on in your division. Everybody's got a number 1 receiver in this division. And it just so happens those guys, those number 1s, are probably 3 of the 6 best receivers in the whole league.
I think he can get out of it. I'm looking at Spot Track right now. It says he got a potential out 2025, 4 years, $70 million. Do we know?
I believe he's under contract until 2026, but I don't know the deals about what the options are.
There might be an opt out or something there, but yeah, that's a good trade for them. What did they give up, Grant? I didn't see that.
So it was they had 2 third-round picks. They had one that they had acquired. I think it was the Dolphins' 3rd-round pick, and then they had the Eagles' 3rd-round pick from the Jahan Dotson trade. They gave up the lesser of those. So it was basically at the end of the 3rd round. It's almost a 4th-round pick. They gave up their 4th-round pick and a 6th. And then they got back Lattimore and a 5th. So 3, 4, 6, Lattimore and a 5th.
I like that because you're in a position to compete right now. This is a trade that you probably never thought you were going to do this season. And you got Lattimore for hopefully a few more years too, and depending on what this potential out means in 2025. But it's good stuff, Grant. Congratulations. You're in a good spot as a Commies fan.
Yeah, looking at the rest of the schedule, so we kind of, during pre-production, we said we were going to shift this into a talk about the Eagles and the Cowboys and the NFC East as a whole. So Washington's got this game against the Steelers on Sunday. They play the Eagles in Philly on Thursday. And that, if we're talking about where Lattimore's going to make an impact, that's where it's going to happen if it's going to happen. That's in Philly. Washington potentially 8-2, Philly potentially 7-2, a real rivalry showdown. Winner sets himself up to win the division, and you've got AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. That's where you're going to see the impact happen if it's going to happen for this team.
Yeah, 100%. And I think too, going into this week, like this is a must-win game for the Commanders because realistically, things have gone super smoothly this season, but you could drop 2 in a row and not even think twice in the course of a few days. So this is important for them to stay on track and at least win one of the next 2 football games.
Yeah, and Philly's got the Cowboys this weekend. It's a road divisional matchup, so no matter who's on the field, that you always got to account for that to a certain extent. But we're expecting them to beat the Cowboys right now.
Yeah, definitely. So this will be for first place on Thursday night. And if you lose this game, and the Eagles could go up a full game, right? If they lost, Eagles win, Commanders lost, then Eagles win on Thursday night.
I think they would go up a half game because Washington hasn't had the bye yet.
Okay, gotcha. But you got so what? They each have 2 losses?
They each have 2 losses. Washington has 1 more win.
Okay. So, but the Washington could be at 4 losses.
Yeah, Washington would be behind, and Philly would have the tiebreaker.
Yeah, so it wouldn't be a good spot. And at that point, you'd get the division odds for a much better price on the Commanders. But at that point, I don't know if it would be worth taking as much. Looking at the division odds right now in the NFC East, you have, do we have NFC East right here? Philadelphia Eagles minus 145, Commanders plus 110. So this is a 2-horse race here. What side, if you're going to bet, I'll take it from both perspectives, Grant. If you're going to take the Washington Commanders to win the division, when do you jump in on it? Or if you're going to take the Eagles, when do you jump in on it looking at the next 2 games?
I don't know that I have a great answer. I think the better side is the Commies because they are leading this division and they do have the better value. And the Eagles still have some tough games. You know, they've got to play the Steelers too. They've got to go at Baltimore. They've got to go at the Rams. Those are not easy games. You know, Washington doesn't have a cakewalk either. Some of their remaining schedule. Obviously, they're at the Eagles on Thursday night, and then they've got the Falcons as well. But they've got the Titans, the Saints. You know, they've got 2 games against the Cowboys who don't look good right now. I think Washington has the easier schedule coming down the stretch. So the fact they are ahead and they have better value, I think it makes them the better pick.
I think if you're going to bet the Commanders to win the division, you wait and you take the gamble that they lose one of the next 2 games because you're still going to get a plus money price there. If you like the Eagles, you probably got to hop in it right now because even if Philly wins this game and then loses to the Commanders, this is the first of 2 between them.
Yep.
So I still think you need to get it right now because even if they lose to Washington next Thursday and beat Dallas, you're probably still looking at them being minus 120, minus 130. And if they win both those games, they're going to be minus 250.
Yeah. Talking about Dallas, Tanner, I have no clue what these guys are doing. They're 3-5. Dak Prescott's going on IR. They trade a 4th-round pick for Jonathan Mingo, and now they're starting Cooper Rush. There's so much to talk about. I just want to focus on Cooper Rush. What was the point of trading for Trey Lance? They gave up a draft pick to get him. I forget what it was, a 4th, 5th, whatever. Why would you give up a draft pick to get a young player who's raw and who needs time? I'm not saying Trey Lance is the answer. I'm not saying that. But why not start him in this game? If he goes out there and he performs well, then oh my God, we've just found a bridge to the future. We can get off Dak, who's taking up $65 million a year. We found a diamond in the rough. Or if he's bad, then you're going to tank and you're going to continue to lose games and you're going to get a better draft pick in the upcoming draft. What's the point of putting Cooper Rush out there?
Well, that's the exact reasoning there. Because if you start what's his name, Trey Lance, and he does light the world on fire, you just paid Dak. And if you got a backup coming in and you're not paying anything to play and he just lights the world on fire, then there's going to be the conversation of, is Dak even the quarterback of the team? So they just get rid of him and trade him after just signing him. I think that would be the only reason that Cooper Rush is playing quarterback in this game, because you know what Cooper Rush can do. Cooper Rush is a reliable backup. He's played a lot of football. Trey Lance, you want to get him reps too, but at the same time, you just signed Dak Prescott to a massive contract. And if you just signed Dak Prescott and this dude comes in and plays really well, there's going to be a lot of rumblings in the locker room, and that's not probably what Jerry Jones wants.
Well, okay, so if Trey Lance does come in and he does play well, don't you want to get off of Dak?
But you
Because Trey
just
Lance is
paid him.
making Trey Lance is only making a few $1,000,000. If Dak's making 60, 65, like trade him, get
Yeah,
rid
but
of him, and save yourself.
you got to get somebody to take over that deal, and you're probably still going to have to pay a chunk of that deal. You know, like they screwed themselves by paying Dak, knowing that he got hurt and knowing the season's a wash. Because like I don't know if anyone's just going to totally take the swap of, hey, we're going to get Dak for. Like, I don't think the Cowboys would get a good deal for Dak. Like, Dak's a great quarterback. Obviously, he can put up stats. The playoff wins have been very questionable, but when you pay a dude that much money, I don't think a team's just going to swap and say, hey, we're going to take on this entire contract. Like, they'd rather just draft a young kid and see what they can do if you're in need of a quarterback, or the Cowboys would have to take on a chunk of his contract for him to go play somewhere else.
I'm going to read you some teams. You let me know if you think they would take on the whole contract.
Yeah.
Well, let's say in the offseason, the New York Jets.
I think if you're the New York Jets, you need to go back to ground zero and like just totally restart with a rookie.
Cleveland Browns.
I think they're in a rebuilding spot too. I don't think Dak like moves them. I don't know if Dak makes them that much closer to a championship. Do you?
I mean, it makes them closer, but I don't think it makes them close.
I don't think it makes them close. Yeah, like that's my take.
The Tennessee Titans.
They have a good defense. Like Tennessee's probably more of a fit there, and then they can dump Will Levis, but also, you know, they signed a lot of big name guys too. So cap wise, like you're not paying Will Levis anything, right? So now you take on that money. Where do you have to give up other space?
The Raiders.
Raiders could be a good fit. That would be one where I would say they would take on the money. They probably have the cap space to do it, and they don't have a quarterback. So I think Raiders would definitely be one to go, especially with Brady going there now.
And then Panthers and Saints.
Panthers, I would say no. It doesn't make them any closer to a contender. Saints, you still have Derek Carr.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess you're right. I mean, there are teams out there who would want him, but do they want the whole contract? That's the key. Speaking of contract, I looked this up on same thing you were on Spot Rack yesterday. Did you know next year, Dak and CD, two players on a 53-man roster, make 46% of the cap. Almost half of the team goes to two players.
That's just bad. That's bad managing. Like that's bad bad GM ability right there by Jerry Jones.
I don't understand. How do you fill out a roster at that point?
You don't. I mean, that's what we're seeing this year. Like they're very weak on and I think defense too was a lot caused by Mike Zimmer just not having a clue. I don't anticipate him being back as the defensive coordinator next year. Dan Quinn was a very good DC. We saw that he brought those guys to a different level. Mike Zimmer's not doing it, and you can see the talents out there. You know, running back wise, they don't have a running back right now. They don't look good at running back. Receiver wise, you got CeeDee Lamb and Dak. But other than that, like what else do they have? The offensive line's fading. They're all getting old. Like they need cap space to sign players.
They didn't replace Ty Smith. They didn't replace Tyler Biadasz. Zach Martin's old. He needs replacing. DeMarcus Lawrence is getting old. Trevon Diggs is fine, but what are you going to do when you've got to pay some of these young? How are you going to pay Micah Parsons? If Dak and CD take up half your cap, Micah's going to want to be the highest paid defensive player in the history of football. How do you pay those three?
When's his contract?
I think it runs out maybe at the end of next year. Let me see.
Okay.
But that means he's going to want a contract this summer as well.
Yeah. And they're not going to give it to, based on what we saw, how they managed the other dudes this season. They're probably not going to give it to him.
Yeah. So he's got a backloaded. Oh, he's got a 5th-year option, so he can be done after this year.
Yeah, he's got the rookie. But doesn't the team? I think with those rookie,
the team has the option.
The team has the option. He has no option there. But like, I mean, Micah's only played in what 1, 2, 3, 4 games. It's been 4 games. He hasn't played since September 26th. Battling injuries right now. He wasn't very productive in the games that he did play in. So it's like if you're the Cowboys, are you really going to sign him right now to a contract with the health issues?
And also, if they do exercise that option, you know, he's not going to be making the 35, 40 million, whatever he would ask for, but it still goes up to 21 million, which is 8% of the cap. So that would be 54% to Dak, CD, and Micah.
So why do you think Cooper Rush is getting the start this week then? Is it
Well,
like what I'm
because
thinking?
I think they're a poorly run team. Honestly, I think Jerry wants to win games, and I think Cooper Rush gives them a better chance to than Trey
Yeah.
Lance. But again, you know, what was the point? Why would you give up a draft pick to trade for Trey Lance if you're not going to play him in this time? This is the time, if there is a time.
Yeah. And looking at the Cowboys right now, they are 3-5. I guess they're still alive for a playoff spot.
They're
Potentially.
done.
I mean, playoff wise, yeah, they're done. They're done. So you got to win a lot of football games. But they've played well. Like that's the thing. They've made games close down the stretch because they start slow.
That's what they do.
They start very slow, but they've been very competitive.
The NFC is kind of crazy, by the way, because if you look at the teams, these are teams that are not in the playoffs if they started today. Bears, Rams, 49ers, Buccaneers, Seahawks, Cowboys.
And it's going to be very hard for some of those teams to even make the playoffs when you look at Vikings playing well. I think the Vikings will fade a little bit, but very good on defense. Eagles and the Commanders are both going to get in right now. And then the Packers and the Lions are both going to get in. So I don't see the Bears getting in. The 49ers have to, but also
How? The only path for them, I don't think they can get a wild card. I think they have to win the division.
Which is very, very doable, though, with the Cardinals being 5-4.
Yeah, but the Rams are 4-4, which is the same as the Niners, and the Rams are getting healthy. The Rams did this too last year. They won 7 of their last 8 last year.
Yeah, you never know. But I think the 49ers are too talented not to get in. If Christian McCaffrey comes back and plays well, he needs to come back and play well very soon. And honestly, 49ers are on a little bit of upset alert against Buccaneers.
I agree. The Buccaneers, if they showed you anything on Monday, it's that they play tough. They play hard.
Yeah, they play hard. Like you got to come earn a win, no matter who they have playing quarterback. Now being back at home in a game that they need to win too. And they were just competitive against the Chiefs. If you can be competitive against the Chiefs, they played the Chiefs better than the 49ers played the Chiefs. So
yeah, 100%. And also when McCaffrey comes back, you're assuming MVP level Christian McCaffrey's coming back. If McCaffrey's a better player than Jordan Mason, is Christian McCaffrey in his first week back from 2 Achilles problems, both sides? Is he going to be better in that week than what Jordan Mason has been this year? Probably
and also,
not.
Jordan Mason has been one of the best running backs in the NFL statistically.
Yeah,
like he's still been. If you got Jordan Mason in your backfield, like you're playing well. So that's another thing too. Like how much better he's going to be better, but how much better can he actually be right off the bat?
What was our final topic for today?
Quick Sunday night football pick: Lions versus Texans.
So, what do you think about the Lions? Do you think the Lions are the best team in the NFL right now, or are you still giving that to the Chiefs?
I still give it to the Chiefs. I think they're by far the best team in the NFC, but they can get knocked off easier than the Chiefs can get knocked off.
I think CJ Stroud has not played well the last few weeks. You know, he went 11 of 30 against the Jets. It's understandable because some of his top 2 receivers are out and the offensive line isn't helping him, but that's not going to change. Those guys are still gone. The offensive line is what it is. Detroit adding Zadarius Smith, it doesn't change the complexion of the team. It doesn't replace what you lost with Aiden Hutchinson, but it does help. It does give you a little more oomph in the pass rush. This defense quietly, we love talking about the Lions offense. Their defense is 5th in points per game allowed. So I think the Lions go on the road. The Lions 3.5 here. You would probably prefer to get that at like 2.5, but I would take the Lions.
I would take the Lions too. I mean, they're so explosive on offense, and they've been good on defense too this season, but their offensive explosiveness forces their opponents into mistakes. So this is a play where I would 100% take the Lions. I'm sure this is going to close out a lot of parlays for people. So I think the money being on the Lions is a bit concerning. There's a lot of it coming in right now, but it's still, in my opinion, best play you can do. Lions 3.5.
Yeah, and I like what you said too. Detroit's going to score points, and that forces other teams to try to be explosive. CJ Stroud can be explosive, but can he do it with the way the offensive line is playing, without Nico Collins, without Stephon Diggs? He's probably going to throw an interception or 2 in this game.
Yeah, so that's another play you can make, interception. The Lions secondary has been good. Like they've shut down the pass pretty efficiently this season.
Yeah, it's very impressive. Dan Quinn, we were talking about on the last show, probably going to win Coach of the Year and probably deserves it. But the coaching job that Dan Campbell has done over the last 4 years is remarkable.
Yeah, he should be coach of the decade. You can't say coach of the decade yet, but like whatever that award would be for the past 4 seasons, like he earned it to go from where this team was to where they are now. See the passion he's put into it, and their front office has just been unbelievable, fixing the issues that they've had from years past. Every year they've gotten better in like a specific area of the game, and it's leading to hopefully a championship soon.
Yeah, I mean, the front office has drafted so well. I mean, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, um, um, Brian Branch, Aiden Hutchinson,
Jahmyr
Jack
Gibbs and
Campbell.
Laporta. Nobody wanted Jahmyr Gibbs and Laporta. Like
Yeah,
they got a lot of crap for taking Jahmyr Gibbs as high as they did, and he turned out to be one of the best running backs in the NFL.
yeah. Penei Sewell as well. They drafted the offensive line. They made the right hires as well, not just coach, but coordinators.
Yeah,
It's hats off to the Lions front office.
yeah. Anyways, Grant, take us out of here.
Guys, that is going to do it for this episode of Ride the Line. Tanner and I deeply appreciate all of you joining us. If you want to be back with us, make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the like button as well. Jump in the comments, let us know who you are going to be betting on this weekend. We will catch you all in the next episode of Ride the Line.